Have you ever felt that whisper in your soul calling you to something more, but all the things spinning around in your mind have kept you stuck? Well, what if I told you that choosing excellence could be both easier and more adventurous than you could ever imagine? I am Chelsea DeBruin-Colbert, your host of All Things Excellence. I'm a soul catalyst for excellence who leapt off that corporate cliff and left small-town Iowa farm life in my 20s to follow my calling, helping women come home to themselves by anchoring into who they're designed to be. I create sacred containers where women rediscover their truth, design their dream life, and transform those whispers into action. Now you can find me running my business from the soccer sidelines as a coach's wife, hiking my favorite Arizona mountain, or back in Iowa with my family, or on an adventure chasing my next sunrise, hot cup of coffee and journal in hand. Through intimate conversations about the stories, the traumas, and the transformations behind choosing excellence, we're creating a collective healing journey together. I believe in diving deep into personality designs, experimenting boldly, and learning life's greatest lessons through our beautiful chaos. Every week, my guests and I are going to rip down the curtains so you can see behind the scenes of real transformation as we explore what excellence actually looks like. Not just the highlight reel, but that messy middle where the magic happens. Whether you're seeking inspiration to take that leap or already on your journey and craving connection, this is your invitation to join us. So grab your coffee, settle in, and get ready to discover just how close you are to the life your soul is calling you to create. This is All Things Excellence. Hey, All Things Excellence fam, I've got a fun treat for you today. Today, Krista, the founder of Money Mindful Moms, is here with me. And let me tell you what, y'all need to really listen in today because we actually attempted to record this yesterday, and right as we were getting ready to start, I thought my internet was out. No, the internet was out in the nation for our internet company. So I just decided, like, whatever is going down in this podcast is just so powerful. It basically knocked out the internet. So no matter where you are on your money journey, your budgeting journey, there must be something just really special hidden inside this episode. And even a nationwide internet outage is not going to stop us from getting this out there. So I'm so excited to bring her to y'all. We've known of each other for years and years. I've watched this evolve with her, and I'm really excited because she created this platform that encourages moms who want to pursue money goals without obsessing, without missing out on important family experiences. She's a busy mom of 3 who started sharing about her own debt payoff journey online and helps other moms who want to feel confident and proud of their financial choices. And y'all, there are a lot of reasons that I love you, I love Krista, y'all. But when I get to watch the fact that, one, y'all are hardcore budgeting, you're paying off lots of debt, but you still allow yourself vacations, Starbucks, and crumble in moderation. We'll talk about that. And then also the fact that we talked about this yesterday when we attempted to record, that your husband's also in education, as my husband is in education. And a very frequent comment that I get in education, when your husbands just really don't make that much money, it's very capped. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it, especially when you live on the West Coast. It's very capped compared to our cost of living. And I frequently get the, well, Kobe just needs to get a different job. And that is not the answer, because when your husband gets to this place where it is so obvious that he is doing exactly what God wants him to do for a career, I feel like we took forever to get here. The last thing I want him to do is change a job just because of money. But then how do you figure out how to still live your best life within that? And I feel like y'all are doing that.
We're trying.
But you are doing it so authentically and vulnerably also, because you put it out on the internet, which, when you make the decision to be vulnerable, then everybody else gets to be better. So let's dive right in and go, how in the heck did you get to this place where, because your husband wasn't always in education.
Nope. It's been a
No.
journey. It has been a journey
Yeah.
for sure to get here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you are like the side gig, side hustle, whatever we want to call it, master right now, which wasn't always true. Like, there was a time where you were the primary income earner.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
It yeah,
Yeah. How did you get here?
let's go back because
Yeah.
So essentially, I kind of caught the entrepreneurial bug when I was in college and I started a network marketing business. I was 20 years old at the time, and I was kind of like in this place where I just saw it as a great opportunity, but nobody else understood why I was doing it. It was like, wait, you're
Mhm.
going to college,
Mhm.
you're getting a degree. Like, what are you doing actually? What are you doing? And
It was not cool.
it was not cool. Okay, this was okay. I remember Facebook had literally just come out and you had to be
Yes.
in college to have a Facebook account. And I
Yes.
was like one of the first people that started sending messages on Facebook.
Yes.
And I remember my recruiter being like, "What is this Facebook thing that you're using?" Because at the time, everyone
Yes.
had to like pick up a phone and call someone. And so
Mhm.
I just saw the bigger picture of this freedom, this idea of
Mhm.
down the road when I had kids, I could do
Mhm.
this and I could, still be at the field trips or I could still do the things that I wanted to do as a mom, but still bring in an income because my
Mhm.
husband had wanted to be a teacher. And I thought, well, that's great, but I know they don't make a
Mhm.
lot of money. And so if
Mhm.
he's going to want to be a teacher, then I'm going to have to make sure that I bring in some money somehow. Um,
Mhm.
and so he was well, I should say, he was my boyfriend at the time. And
Yeah.
we got our degrees. We moved up to the San Francisco Bay Area, which is a high cost of living area. And we started our lives together. We got married. We had our first baby. And right when we had our first baby, my husband was going through his student teaching. And when you do student teaching, you don't get paid for that. So it was like this very like rocky time financially, but I am like this eternal optimist and I was just like it's fine. It'll work itself out. It's going to work itself out. Did I have a plan on how it was going to work itself out? No, but in my mind I'm like it has to work out. We're good people. We're trying to do the right thing. So the good things happen to good people. That's what I thought. So
Yeah.
I was still just kind of plugging away at my network marketing business, and he finished his student teaching, and then he was told, you might want to look for a different profession because they're laying off teachers now, and you're probably not going to get a job.
Mm.
So now we're starting to put things on the credit card because it's like, okay, well,
Mhm.
that wasn't part of our plan. Now we need gas or we need food. And so it was never really this giant crazy purchase that we made or we weren't out there like
Mhm.
making it rain at the stores, it was just like these little
You weren't being
things,
irresponsible.
not being irresponsible.
No.
Would
No, you
I
were, like,
go back and
really.
yeah,
Yes.
totally. It's like, of course, like hindsight, I'm like, hello, what was I thinking? But it was never an irresponsibility. It was just, okay, well, this is where we're at. I guess this is what we
Yeah.
have to do. So
Mhm.
credit cards debt started adding up, but he did get another job in a totally different field. Grateful
Mhm.
for the income, but he was working a lot. He worked in an office at a DJ company, and so he was there Monday through Friday, but then he was also DJing on the weekends, and so he was gone a lot. And so we went,
I never realized that.
yeah.
Okay, I knew he was, like, DJing on the weekends, but I never understood he was working in the office of a DJ, so it was almost like an extension of his job.
Yeah, it was like he basically was working all the time for this company, whether he was DJing
For this
or he
actual
was in the
company.
office like troubleshooting. It's a pretty big company and
Mhm.
they on the weekends they would have anywhere
Yeah.
from like 60 to
Yeah.
100 events. So he was kind of
Yeah.
doing a lot of the behind the scenes and then he was gone a lot. And in the process we had another baby, so I was, juggling life with two kids,
Mhm.
working my network marketing business, and then also he was gone a lot. And so it was a lot, but we're going through the motions because in our minds, this is what you're supposed to do. Like it might be a struggle, but this is what that time of your life is quote unquote supposed to look like. And so we just kept doing what was in front of us, what we knew to do. And then we had
Do you
this,
feel like it was also a little bit where you lived too? I mean, because that's where your family was from. You guys just
yes.
you didn't live in Arkansas and go, now I'm gonna go live in California.
Mm-mm.
Like
I've
your
always
family is
lived in
from there.
California, always been in California.
Yeah.
We moved
Yeah.
to a little bit less expensive part, but I mean, it's still California. So,
Still, yeah,
yeah.
like you can only get, yeah. And I think people go like, "Well, leave California." Well, there's still the dynamic that your whole family is there
Hmm.
and your family is helping you with your life and with your kids, and
Yeah. And
so it's not,
I've had friends
and you were
that have
young.
moved out of California and
Yeah.
then maybe their income is lower where they move. So it's like, I think we all like
Yeah.
want that magic solution of like, if I could just blah, 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 then everything would be better. And I think that
Mhm.
maybe you might enjoy living in another state, but it doesn't necessarily mean that financially all
Mhm.
the problems will be solved, because I've seen that firsthand too.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, we were just kind of doing the things, and I had this idea because I was seeing him so tired coming home, and just,
Mhm.
he it wasn't his passion, it was a job, and he did what he had to do, but I just kept thinking one day down the road, I will make enough money and I can retire him. And it was like this
Yeah.
buzzword at the time of like, you could retire your husband, right?
Yeah.
And so
It
it
was
was
very
like,
trendy in
totally,
network marketing.
totally.
This is like a decade ago, probably, right? Like, if it's like a
Yes.
decade ago?
Yeah, a little bit over. And
Yeah, like 12, like very 2013, come
yes.
in network marketing and retire your husband. Not that
Yeah.
people didn't. People did. That's very valid.
Yeah. I knew
There were
people
great
that did.
examples.
So in my mind, it was
Yes.
like, okay, I know people that did
Yep.
that. It can be
Uh-huh.
me, right? And but I never really had a strategy or a plan. It was always just keep
Mhm.
working. Just keep doing, just keep
Sure.
working. And eventually we'll
Mhm.
get there. And um unfortunately we had a pretty significant thing in our lives. Our son, who was 11 months old at the time, passed away
Mhm.
unexpectedly. We put him to bed, and then he just didn't wake up the next morning. And I think when you go through something like that, one of the things that a lot of people who haven't been through something like that don't realize is that, they expect
Mhm.
the grief, they expect, it to be devastating, but there is a domino effect on the rest of your life that comes from that type of loss.
Mhm.
So it isn't just the loss itself, it's the decisions that you make after the fact. We moved
Yeah.
after that. My husband changed his job, and everything just changed because it's like your whole life
Yeah.
overnight is just
Mhm.
completely upended. And so he came
Mhm.
to me, I think it was literally the next day, and said, I can't go back to that job. Like I have to just leave. And I really wish that we were making that decision from a place of financial stability. We weren't financially stable at the time, but it felt like there was literally no other option. Like he needed
Mhm.
to take some time away and not have to jump back into a job that not only did he, not love, but also felt
Yeah.
like this was part of the reason that I missed out on a lot of my son's life because I was gone all the
It
time.
He was 11 months old, and he was working weekdays and weekends. Like, he probably legitimately, there is like a weird sense of, I don't know if guilt's the word, but I really truly barely knew him kind of
Right,
thing. Like,
a
I didn't get to
regret, I
see him
think
that much at
maybe
all.
just I
Yeah.
and I
Regret,
think
yeah.
to him it was like never again. Never again will
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
let something take away time. And I think that's why he ultimately
Mhm.
came back to the idea of teaching, because
Mhm.
anyone who's ever had him as a teacher just knows that he's just very gifted in that way and really connects with kids. But I think this idea of having more time, having more freedom,
Mhm.
having, like, we're on summer break right now and he's in the next room with my kids. So,
Mhm.
having more of that time than he would ever be able to have at a traditional like corporate job. And so,
Mhm.
he took some time. He was actually Mr. Mom, like stay-at-home dad for a while.
Yeah.
And that was fun to watch. And we ended up going on to have another baby. And he just was taking his time to like regroup before he dove back in and ended up getting a teaching job. But in the process, we, like I said, we weren't coming at it from a place of financial stability. So more stuff was going on credit
Yeah.
cards. And I was like, in my mind, it was like, this is a short term and my business is going to take off, and then none of that will
Mhm.
matter. So, like, it's okay.
We said this yesterday, like, curse of the entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Tomorrow is
totally.
gonna be a billion times better, and I don't care
Next
what
month,
industry you are in. Yep,
always, 100%.
next quarter, like, this is the year I'm just investing, investing, investing in my business, and next month, next year, whatever, it's gonna be better, and that's the curse of any entrepreneur.
Yeah, and it's
Absolutely.
it's the thing that makes you a great
Mhm.
entrepreneur at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like that
Yeah.
quality is so great, but it can also, like,
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
blinds you a
Eat
little
you
bit.
alive.
And so,
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
the credit card debt was growing. We still had student loans, and it just I've heard it said that easy to wander into debt, but it's not easy to wander out of it. And that's really what it was, is we
Mm.
kind of wandered into it. It wasn't this giant irresponsible purchase. It was like this slow process. But once you get to a certain point, there's like this tipping point of like, oh my gosh, now getting out of this
Like,
isn't
how
so
do we
easy.
even like, where do we even start?
Right. Like, what do I
Right? The
even
where do
do?
we you yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it just got to a place where it was not manageable anymore, and
Mm.
my job, quote unquote, at that time was to
Yeah.
save our family money and then bring in money however I could. And I started kind of
Yeah.
doing these side hustles, if you will. I don't even think of them as
Mhm.
side hustles because we relied on them to pay our bills. They weren't on the side, it wasn't like, ooh, I have this fun money to spend. It
Yeah.
was like, sweet, we can get groceries this week. It wasn't on the
Yeah. It's
side. It
more like
was
you had a billion jobs and a billion ways to make money here and there. It's like
Mhm.
all the different ways that you could make an extra $100. You were
Yeah.
doing it all.
And I think that's one of the reasons I have gotten to this place. And when I work with somebody on their finances, I think one of the
Mhm.
things that I needed at the time that I didn't have, and I hope that I can give
Yeah.
to other people, is I don't see personal finance as so black and white as so many other people
Mm.
see it. And they're like, you have to do
Yeah.
this and then this. I see it as there's so many shades of gray because somebody else probably would have been like, well, why don't you just go get a job? Why don't you just go get a job? And if you
Yeah.
could look at like what was happening inside of my brain and been like, well,
Mhm.
she has thought about that, but then you weigh all these things. Well, the childcare costs just as much as I would be making, and then this and then that. And it's like, that doesn't make sense. And so I think,
Yeah, it doesn't actually make sense. Like, it
no.
sounds so good in theory. I think people have so many opinions about other people's lives in theory, but they don't understand the fallout. Like, I think of like a
Yes.
dumb thing. Like, I have a sauna membership, which probably sounds so extra. I'm sure it looks extra to people externally, but if I don't keep my allergen load low, I am migraines and throwing up, and there's just nothing I can do about it. It's not a controllable, it's like part of survival.
Right. See, that's such a
And I
great
think people are
example
like,
of
"Oh,
that.
she's so bougie." And I'm like, I do not like spending hours a week sitting in 160 degrees, sweating and cooking. Like, this is not for fun,
Yes.
you know?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So I think
I love that. I
that's
love that.
just kind of my mindset about money now is, yes, I know people want somebody to give them the answers of do this and then do that and then do that. And while
Mhm.
there is, this isn't like a kumbaya, I'm going to hold your hand and, pretend like everything's fine when it's
Mhm.
not. But at the same time,
Yeah.
most people know their situation better than an outsider does. And you know the intricacies of it and
Mhm.
reasons why you're
Yeah.
making certain decisions. And you sometimes
Mhm.
have to like stand 10 toes on the ground and be like, this is what I have to do for my family right now. And I'll figure out ways
Mhm.
to make it work around it. Like, I'm not going to let
Yeah.
my family fall. But other people might not understand why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, but I do. And that's all that matters.
Yeah. Mhm. That what was the thing that really broke the camel's back where you all were like, "Okay, enough is enough. Like, we literally actually cannot keep keeping on like this. We've
Yeah.
got to stop, like,
Yeah.
cauterize the wound, stop the bleeding."
I think, I know this sounds silly and so little, but I think one thing that I think about is,
I think it is a little thing.
it was like one of those moments where I
Uh-huh.
was just like, what am I
Yeah.
doing? Um,
Yeah.
I was like so desperate to like bring in some extra money that I spent like
Mhm.
hours gathering up my kids like little things that they were done with and like taking pictures of
Yeah.
them to post on Facebook Marketplace, getting that runaround of
Mm.
like people being like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming," and then not coming,
Yeah.
and literally made like
Yeah.
$2 or $3. And I was like, okay, this is a problem. Like, my mind is so like messed up about this that I'm willing to
Yeah.
trade hours and hours for a couple of bucks at most. Like,
Yeah.
that's a problem. I've got a
Yeah.
scarcity mindset thing going on. Like, what if I would have put
Mhm.
that time
Mhm.
into a more profitable, lucrative side hustle that I have going
Yeah.
on? But it was just like I was grasping at straws to just try to
Yeah.
fix it because I desperately wanted to fix it. And it was coming from a right place.
Yeah.
But I think all of the advice that I had seen at the time was very scarcity mindset driven. It was very like, sell everything that you have, sell your dining
Yeah.
room table if you have to, you should never see the
Yeah.
inside of a restaurant unless you work there. You should not like, and so I was like, okay, well,
We've
this is,
all read the Dave Ramsey books.
yes.
Like we've all,
Mm-hmm.
right. Like if you're listening to this, you've probably read it or you've listened to it, of which there are a lot of things about his stuff that I love,
Yeah,
but
same. Same. And I think
you
there
know,
is a time and
do
a
you
place
think?
for some people that need to hear that, but then there's also a time and a
Yeah.
place where you need to be like, this goes against everything that I believe in. Like I have an abundance mindset
Yeah.
and now here I am spending
Mhm.
hours for $2. That doesn't make sense.
Do you think almost the rigidity of some of those programs where it's like, don't step in a restaurant unless you work there, sell your car, you're only going to have one car, like all these crazy things. Like, do you think that almost the rigidity and high structure of that is what keeps people from even entertaining the idea of, I need to figure out a plan to start paying down my debt?
Yeah.
Because that's so extreme and so painful. Like, I could even feel that for myself, where I remember back in the day, I read of course, I've read the book and I've listened to the book, whatever, and I've done the things. And I remember thinking, no, literally the level of restriction and scarcity that is will kill me before the debt does.
Hmm. Hmm.
I just thought, like, I just can't function like that. And so I
Yeah.
think then there's nothing like what you're doing, which is why I find it so intriguing where you're like, okay, let's meet in the middle of that,
Yeah.
you know?
It almost
Because
reminds me
what,
so much of it is like a diet mentality. Do you know what I mean? Of like, there's ways to
yes,
be healthy about
yes,
how you are doing this, and
yes.
then there's ways that you drop 20
Mhm.
pounds in 6 weeks, and yeah, it'll work. You'll do it, but
Yes,
it's not
yes.
gonna last.
Like on the cabbage soup diet. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, you're gonna eat. I read a post recently, like list all the bad old dumb diets, and one of them was the cabbage soup diet. And it's literally like the cabbage soup diet, where it's like you're gonna eat nothing but cabbage soup for the next 8 weeks and lose weight. Well, yeah, the dieting and it's being extreme, whether it's there's a lot of ways in life. I think that we think like the being extreme, like 75 hard is just the way to do it. And then you can't maintain that. And so that's what I feel like. I feel like watching your journey is so cool because I'm like, she's figured out how to do it in a way where you don't feel deprived of everything fun in life. And it makes me go like, oh, okay, well, there's another way. So how did you figure that out? Like, what made you talk about the decision that y'all had to pay down this debt slowly, or it wasn't like we're both going out and we're getting three jobs apiece and we're not step footing in a restaurant, no vacations, no Starbucks, no Crumble, no nothing. Like, were there books you read, tools you found? Like, what happened here?
Honestly, most of it was just like a trial and error. It was me
Okay.
trying the more like deprivation route and then just being
Yeah.
like, oh, this is not it. This is not going to
Mm-mm,
work long term. And
mm-mm,
just saying, like, trusting myself, trusting that
mm-mm,
I know I might not know all of the money stuff yet, but I know myself,
mhm,
I know my
mhm,
behaviors, I
mhm.
know things that trigger me. I know that side of it. I know like my own psychology, if you will. And I could figure the money stuff out and I
Yeah.
did, and I learned, I taught myself, but it was trial and error. And I saw this TikTok the other day and I sent it to my husband. It said, my husband's just lucky that I am an iced coffee girl and not a designer handbag girl. And I was laughing because I'm like, that's totally me. I don't
That's
need
real.
the fancy stuff, but you can pry that iced coffee
Mhm.
from my cold dead hands. Like I just simply cannot. And that's okay. Like it is okay.
Yeah.
And now I'm not doing it every
Mhm.
single day because that's not in our
Yeah.
budget realistically, but I'll make myself a coffee at home and then most of the
Mhm.
time, and then I'll enjoy a coffee out from time to time. And for my husband, it's his Crumble. That's his thing. I'm
Yes.
still like hoping one day that Crumble will like sponsor us or something. I'm like, kid, post a video about Crumble. Maybe we'll get their attention and they'll send us a gift card. But that's his thing, and you know what?
He
We
does
enjoy
love
it
it.
together, and, I mean, even his
Yeah.
students know it. He gets Crumbl gift cards for Christmas or whatever because it's his thing,
Mhm.
and you know what? That's okay. You can still enjoy it. I will, like,
Yeah.
unapologetically tell people to budget for it, like, put it in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Almost, again, I
Mm-hmm.
keep coming back to the health stuff, but it's almost like when you are like doing a food diary or you're just, trying to track what you eat, you still will include that in there, right? If you have a crumble
Mm-hmm.
cookie or whatever. So put it in there,
Mm-hmm.
and make it work, but you can have it. Definitely have it. Don't skip
Yeah.
it. It I don't want people to
Yeah.
be miserable. I think that's an idea that people have is like, oh, if I'm gonna do this, if I'm gonna get serious about this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to like
Mm-hmm.
be miserable. And that's definitely not what I want people to think.
Okay, so kind of a twofold question. Was there any shame or guilt that y'all had to walk through around this when and then from that, how did you get started? Like what was that first thing that y'all went, okay, we need to,
Yeah.
what did you do first? Like,
Yeah,
was it kind of like, we need to do something, and then there's this shame and this guilt that you've got to face about getting grounded in reality about like where you really, really are, and then going, where do we even start? Like, how do we start digging ourselves out of this?
Yeah, I think the shame for me came from I felt like I was the reason that we were in the position that we were in because I was
Mm,
never really great with money. I didn't grow up with an example of what being
yeah.
healthy with money looked like. And so I kind of felt that guilt of like, oh, like if
Mm,
I would have just made different choices, or maybe if I would have just gotten a quote unquote real job, that maybe we wouldn't have been in this
mm.
position, even though I knew, like I said, I knew that what I was doing was the right thing. But it doesn't mean that you just like don't think about what a different reality might look
Yeah, what you should
like.
have done.
If I would have done
But
this,
do you
then
feel
this
like,
would have been different.
yeah, do you feel like most people don't grow up being taught how to be healthy with money, emotionally
I
and
think that that's
literally?
changing. I think that that's changing, and I'm
Mhm.
so glad that like maybe my kids will have a different um like
Yeah.
even their peers, and I think there's more financial literacy online that you can see and
Mhm.
videos and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really great.
True.
I think
Mhm.
at least for my parents, uh, they grew up with parents who didn't give them much. And so then my parents swung in the opposite direction because it was like, we want to give our kids what we didn't have.
Wow.
And so,
They're standard boomers, right? I mean, this is like
totally.
a standard boomer
Oh
millennial
my
thing
gosh.
going
And
on
it was
here.
like, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself spoiled when I was a kid, but I certainly didn't understand once I became an adult just how hard it was because it was
Mhm.
never talked about. It
Mhm.
was like if I wanted something, I knew I would get it.
Mm.
And there was no like, well, let us budget for that. We need to work for that. Here's how you can budget for
Yeah.
that. And I don't fault them because they were trying their
Yeah.
best to like course correct from what their
Mhm.
parents had done, but I think they swung just a little too far in the opposite direction.
Yeah. My parents did definitely decent. I mean, they gave me like money management, the board game when I was a kid, but so I actually think I was really great with I mean, I was like 23 years old and had purchased my own house all by myself. Very accidentally, I was like, "Oh, I have all this money. I should do something with
You're
it.
like,
Let me just
let's
buy
buy
a
a
house."
house.
Like, I literally was like, "What else do you do?" I don't know. I went to school for finance. I'm like, I should invest this in something. I should just buy a house. But then when I got together with my husband was actually when the problems super, super started because that's the home that he was raised in.
Mm,
Absolutely raised in I don't think there was talk about it or like when I was young, when I was 10 years old, so I grew up on a farm. At 10 years old, my parents said, "You either need to help on the farm or you need to figure out how to start paying for your own stuff." And obviously not like my house and my food,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like other things. The the ways
The
that you like
extras.
$20 your parents to
Yeah.
death. Yeah, the $20 your parents to death things. And I was like, "Well, I'm not helping on the farm. Like I didn't choose to be born on a farm. I don't want to be born on a farm. Like I'm not doing it." And they were like, "Cool, you need to figure it out." And I'm like, "That's fine, I will." So I never actually had a traditional job because my parents were like, well, they were very not for me. I wanted to go work at the grocery store with all the rest of my friends so bad by the time I was like 13, 14. And they were like, no, you have the rest of your life to have a job. Like you are intelligent. Go find all the different things you can do. So it's like I was the number one babysitter that everybody wanted. I was helping in people's offices. I was working in my mom's office of her small, network marketing business. So I like hustled from an early age because I like nice things. Not over the top, but like I like what I like and if I want it, I'm going to get it. But yeah, my husband wasn't raised like that. So then when you brought us together, it was really weird and challenging because he grew up in a home where if you talked about money, it was a big argument.
Mm. Yeah.
And so I couldn't even talk to him without him just losing his ever loving mind. And then you kind of go, as an Enneagram 8 with this Enneagram 9, who's like, whoa, he never freaks out, but like he goes postal on this topic. So then it made me as an 8 just go, like, I just got to take care of this. I just got to take care of this. Like, no
Yeah.
matter what's happening, like, I just got to take care of this. And it created like the most wild, codependent, horrendous mess ever until like in 20 beginning of 2017. I mean, I just lost it. Like mental breakdown city,
Mm.
couldn't work, my body was crashing, my adrenals were smoked, and he wasn't working. It had started he wasn't working because I was like, retire the husband thing.
Yeah.
It was the I got it, I hit it, I got there, and it worked until it didn't work. And then when I was like, I need you to get a job, like he just literally wouldn't. Like he
Mm.
wouldn't do it. He just I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things about him that he's grown so much in. I think that level of having to figure out how to be uncomfortable as an adult, he just wasn't an adult yet,
Yeah.
and he wasn't raised to be an adult. And so I think that is hard.
Yeah. Putting that
Like I
together.
didn't have what you had, but like he did. And then we got together and that was so terrible. And then it's like for myself, I was like, oh my gosh, like I literally went to school for finance. Like, what in the heck? Like, I'm a
Mm.
successful person. I make really good money. Like from externally, it's like obviously she's successful and I know better than this. So like, what is going on? Like, why is this happening? But I don't know, married, being young and newly married, and there's so much.
Yeah. Money is hard in and of itself. You put like money and marriage together, different
Yeah,
personalities, different upbringings.
yeah,
It brings up a
yeah,
lot. It's not easy to just
yeah.
overlook it and like bury your head in the sand and move forward.
No. Yeah. Was it were so how did that look like from a marriage standpoint? Like
Yeah.
when y'all, because y'all came together younger, kind of like
Yeah.
us, and did you right away? Well, I guess we were 25 when we started dating. So then by the time our money was combining, it was a couple years later. So
Yeah.
we've been adulting long enough. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I think that also made it a little trickier. But so how was that for y'all? Like, what was it like when y'all first started talking about money as a couple? And were there any things that you guys had to work through with that? Because
Yeah.
I've had people write into me about this topic really recently, and I was
Mm.
like, well, actually, guess who's going to be on the show? And she was asking me just things like that, like tips of like, okay, newly married, how does this work? Like
Mhm.
when it's uncomfortable sometimes as a woman, as a wife, to like bring it up to your spouse. Like,
Yeah.
we need to talk about money.
Yeah, I definitely
Mhm.
didn't get it right in the beginning, and I know everyone is like, "Oh, we either combine finances and they're super sold out on that, or they don't and they have everything
Yeah.
separate and they're super sold out on that." I'm not here to
Yeah.
tell people like, "Oh, you should do this or this," but I will say there was a couple of things
Mhm.
that I have learned that have really helped when it comes
Mm.
to these conversations about money. One of them
Mhm.
is I have this type of personality, and I notice a lot of women are like this too. So I'm sure somebody listening will like relate to this. But when I get
Yeah.
excited about something, I am just like, I read this book, this budgeting
Mhm.
book, this whatever, we're going to do this. And I like make the budget and I'm like all excited about it. And then I present it to him, right? Like,
Mhm.
here's what we're doing. And my
Mhm.
heart was in the right
Yeah.
place, right? Like, I'm so excited about this thing
Mhm.
and it's going to help us. So why wouldn't you be excited about it? And I started to
Yeah.
realize that it was like I wasn't involving him in the process. I was just like, voluntolding him, like
Mm.
this is what we're doing. And so if I could give somebody a piece of advice is if you are excited about this, if you do want to make some changes with your
Mhm.
finances, involve your person in that process. And I think this might have
Yeah.
been something that I learned in network marketing too, a phrase of like people will support that which they help create.
Yeah.
And
Which they help
so
create.
yes. And so that works with husbands too, okay?
Mhm.
Like they will be more on
Huh.
board if they were part of creating the budget, the plan, the whatever you want to call it, than if you
Mhm.
just like drop it on them and are like, this is what we're doing. So that was one thing that I think really helps. And then Another thing that I didn't do right in the beginning, but definitely have learned helps, is to have regular conversations about money. And I know that people don't want to
Mm,
do that, but here's what happens when you don't is you're waiting for a financial bomb to drop, and then you have to have a conversation. And that's when the
okay, I
argument
feel like I did
starts.
that.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, it's like you're avoiding it, and then it's you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't avoid it anymore," and then it's just
Yeah,
like, "Oh my
you're
gosh,
like, "Oh my gosh,
why the
we've
only
just
times that I'm home and around
overdrafted.
and free."
Now I have to talk to him,"
I
and it becomes an
know.
argument. And so, what if
Yes.
instead of doing it that way, what if you just made
Yeah.
it part of your regular weekly conversations? And I know most people are already having this type of conversation.
Mhm.
It looks like a Sunday conversation where you're comparing schedules. What do you have this week? Oh, okay, you got this. Who's getting the kids? What about grocery? What are the
Mm.
meals? Whatever that weekly conversation is that you're
Yeah.
having, all I'm asking that you do is incorporate like an extra 60 seconds into that conversation of like, hey,
Uh-huh.
budget check in, where are we at? Oh, we're a little close to maximum on the groceries. What can we make so we're not going, whatever that looks like. So it's not that serious.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this
Mhm.
like crazy argument when you talk about finances. It's
Mhm.
literally just checking in like you would check in on anything else, but it does take like making it part of your regular routine, and then also just creating the plan together to begin with so that you have something
Mhm.
to actually check in on, like where are we at with all of that. So those are just a couple things that I think
That's
have really
huge.
helped.
That's huge because I think there are some people who don't even have that weekly check-in at all about schedules.
Mhm.
So we do a weekly check-in with, schedules, which dictates meal plan and then
Mhm.
meal plan because my Kobe cares what he eats. He's got to be in the mood. I don't understand it. I'm like, just give me some protein and let me call it a good day, but he's got to be in the mood. And so then just adding that money conversation to that, because otherwise, like, we would have that thing where
Mhm.
it came to be this, like, oh my gosh, the only time, we sit down on the couch, it came to quote unquote, every single time we sit down on the couch to just relax and hang out, all you want to do is talk about money. And I'm like, well, that's because this happens, like, we only get to sit down really and enjoy
Yeah.
each other like once or twice a week because our schedules were so all over the place. And so then it starts to feel like the quote unquote every single time we sit down,
Mhm.
which wasn't true, but I bet that was probably, I mean, I would bet my whole entire life on that was a phrase that he heard growing up every
Mhm.
single time, you know?
Mhm.
So, which, I'm empathetic too, but still. And we really did do actually some marriage, like, counseling therapy around the whole entire thing. Just because I was like, you
Yeah.
can't be avoidant on this forever. I'm gonna drown in the ocean of aloneness.
Mhm.
Just on the topic alone, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. I love that. I love that idea of just adding it into the weekly schedule and seeing where you're at. And okay, so what are three tips that you would give? I said for women on a budget who are also building a business,
Mhm.
but it also could be like three tips in general. One thing I do want to talk about though is tips for women who are on a budget but also building a business, because there is this, I'll say this is my life struggle. My personal life struggle is like, oh, well, okay, that's not maybe like necessarily in the budget, but it is a really good investment in myself, and the residual from it will be so good. But like, how do I, it's that going
Mhm.
back and forth where, and I do it with simple things like few $100 like coaching or coaching programs. My brother does it in by more the way of like $30,000, you know, skid loaders and things like that. So I'm like, well, I'm not like that.
Yeah, just a casual
Like, we
$30,000 or
don't
whatever.
just a cash, super cash, like, oh, I'm just gonna, it's such a different playing field when I'm like, well, that is weird. Not even, I mean, mine's like nothing. I
Yeah.
just want this $150 vision board
Yeah.
program thing. So some tips for women who are women in general, whatever, but then also what are tips that you found for people who are in that business building thing,
Yeah.
in that being pulled back and forth from investing in myself and my business, but also I need to have a budget.
Yeah. Um, I think I made the mistake when I was like in my like network marketing heyday of
Hmm.
really just not questioning any single investment. It was just like, well, they say to go, so I'm going to go. Or
Quote unquote, it's an investment.
it's yeah, and but I
We overuse
never
that. We
like
overuse
really was like, but wait, what is this or why am I doing or and I am such a firm
Mhm.
believer in investing in yourself and your business. So it's not me saying don't invest in yourself, but I think just having the
Mhm.
sort of like curiosity about things of like, okay, how is this going to help? So I actually have a few questions that I will usually ask myself when I'm like
Yeah.
considering investing because I get really
Okay.
excited about stuff and I will just like want to
Yeah.
invest in all
Me
the things, right?
too.
I'm like, that's an
I get
amazing
convinced
coaching
it's the
program.
thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm like, "This is the thing. This
Mhm.
is the thing that
This
I
is the
need."
thing. I've needed this, right?
Yeah.
So, I have a
Yeah.
few questions that kind of help me and it's not to try to dissuade me from investing in something, but just to help me get really clear about why I'm feeling so pulled to that thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I ask, well, how will I pay for this? Because you know,
Mm.
and I think it's great. I love how things are worded of like it's this much a month or you know it's this much up front or you
Mhm.
could do payments or whatever. And so, you know, you start justifying in your mind of
They're
like,
good.
well, I could do payments and
They're
it's like,
good.
okay, well you can do payments,
Mhm.
but still, how are you going to pay those
Yeah.
payments? Like what does that actually look like? And you know, I
Look like.
haven't always made investment decisions having the money up front. So I'm not even saying like if this coaching program is, you know, XYZ amount each month, and do I have that amount sitting in my bank account right now? No, but do I feel like I can get it? Like I'm not giving you a yes or no either way. I'm just saying these are questions to ask yourself because you want to
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
confident in the investment that you're about to make. Another thing that I will ask myself is what gap in my business is this going to fill? Because if I don't currently
Ooh.
have that gap, what am I doing? You know, because I get excited about a
Yeah.
person, like somebody who's really magnetic, and I'm like, she's amazing. I want to be in her space. But let's say social media is like you are not good at social media at all. Then yeah, that might be
Yep.
a gap for you that or maybe you just need like mindset coaching or something like that, and that's great. But if you're like, I am a social media guru, but I just love this person. It's
Yeah.
like, well, what gap is that actually filling in your business? And like, what is the outcome that you're looking for? Because is it really going to move the needle in your business if you're already kind of there, you know?
Doing it and
Yeah,
doing
you're
it well.
doing it already. And then the third question that I ask myself is, am I like willing and able to do everything that is required to get the most out of this investment? Because
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, again, you're getting excited about the person or the idea or the outcome that you could potentially have, but like logistically, what is going to be required of me? How much time? How much, you know, when are the classes? When is the thing? When is the whatever? And like, am I going to be
Mhm.
able to sit my butt in that chair and do the work that is required?
Yeah.
Or is this just going to be one of those things that sits in my inbox and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
you know, paid all this money and I'm not even doing it, you know? So that's just kind of
I'm
how I walk myself through
actually
that.
yeah. I'm actually the queen. Just so you know, I'm the queen. Like not runner up, not princess, the queen of getting a course and not really barely touching it. Like I'll
Mhm.
get the course and I'll kind of like go in there and dig out things that I really, really want. But, like the question of, am I willing and able to get the most out of this investment? And I'm like, oh, that's a really good one. I'm going to be asking myself that one frequently.
I have a
Yeah,
funny story
because
for
I think
that
if
because I'm like, I've
yeah,
done the same thing. I bought this bundle, okay? It was like a course bundle, and there were three different
yeah,
courses. One of them was just like a business, like they talked about getting the LLC, like all like beginner business stuff. One was a podcasting, and one was like a time management one. I bought it for the first thing because it was like the LLC. Like I was a brand new baby business. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I was like, ooh, and I get these two for
hmm
free. I literally have never listened to the one that I bought it for. I ended up listening to the other ones, and the other one's still sitting in my inbox to this day. I'm like, well, that was dumb. I just bought it because I wanted it,
yeah,
that thing, and never actually listened to the thing. So I'm guilty of it
I
too
know.
myself.
Yeah, yeah. Now I try and it's like I wanted our emails to be better, so I got an email whatever course, and then I told my assistant I was like, okay, your job is to actually do the course.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, I'm not doing the emails. And so then I validate it because I'm like, well, I'm not the one doing the emails anyways, but
Right.
our email deliverability and whatever is sucking. And so somebody needs to learn something. So
Yeah.
like you should learn it. But I don't know if I wouldn't say, Caroline can correct me on this. I wouldn't say she's so great even being paid to do it. I think she just doesn't like it. So
Mm.
then I'm like, I don't think she's very great at doing the courses either. I need to find somebody who's really great at studying courses apparently that I get, and then they can make
And then
the
they can give
changes.
you the
I don't
Cliff
know.
Notes version of it.
Yeah, I'm such a Cliff Notes. I'm definitely a Cliff Notes person. So, okay, those are really really excellent questions. What are if like what's like one or two tools or a book? Like if you're like one book I could recommend. Like if you're not going to do anything, you're not going to if they're just not going to do anything at all, but like there's one book you could get them to read or listen to, what would that be?
Mm. Okay, so there's this book, and it's totally not one of like the common books that you hear about, but I
Yeah.
just I think it was like on the library app or something that I listened to randomly one day and was like, this is amazing. It's called The Money Tree
Yeah.
by, I think it's Chris Gillibo or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that book. Okay, so here's just to give you an idea so you know. It's written like a fictional story. So it's not like a typical money book
Yeah.
where it's like, here's the rules, here's what you do, whatever. It's like a fictional story about a guy who's in a bad place financially and like basically creates a business out of nothing. And it sounds kind of boring, but it's not. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. And I
Mhm.
think, to me, I think every teenager should read it because I think more than anything, whether you decide to go into business or not, it
Mhm.
really helps open your eyes to there are possibilities all around me. And I think sometimes when you
Mhm.
are stuck in a debt cycle, it can
Mhm.
affect your mindset and you start like believing the lie of like, well, I'm just stuck here. Like there's no hope for me. My and in your mind, you're
Mhm.
justifying it because you're like, well, look at the math. Look at the math. My job doesn't pay enough to be able to, make more than the minimum payment. So I'm literally just stuck here. But I think that book
Yeah.
really helps open your eyes to there are ways all around you if you are willing to get out of your own way that you can increase your
Mhm.
income so that you can be in a better
Mhm.
place financially this same time next year. So I love that book for nothing else than the money mindset piece of it.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, and then I was just thinking, what's like one to two things that you do that you feel like is they might even be really, really small, but they do help. Like I know you do that swap thing.
Mom swap,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? When you guys like the mom swap. So you do the mom swap. What's the mom swap? Because if you can't find a mom swap, do
You
you
can
create
go
the mom
create
swap in
it.
your area?
Yeah. The mom swap.
Hmm.
So, one thing that I always tell moms, because a lot of times, we talk about villages, having a village. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll
Yeah.
hear people say, well, but I don't have a village. My family doesn't live close by. I don't have friends that can help. And so, my response to that is
Yeah.
always, you can go create one. And how
Yeah.
you do it, and I know this sounds counterintuitive, but how you do that is you go offer the thing that you need the most. And for me, when my kids were little, one of the things that really helped us a lot was having hand-me-downs. Because I mean, when you've
Hmm.
got multiple kids and you have to buy everything brand new and they're growing out of it constantly, it's a big expense. And so I had a friend that was so great at dropping off hand-me-downs, and it literally, I know it sounds like such a small thing, but it literally was such a blessing to our family. And I wanted to do that for other people, but also I was like, well, I've got a son too, and he can't wear these clothes. And, so it was like maybe if we just kind of pass things around to each other. So I started doing this annual mom swap event in my neighborhood where we just go to the like grassy area at the end of our neighborhood here and set up, we advertise it in our Facebook group. People just bring whatever their kids are done with. And then you can take whatever you want. There's no real like rules to it of like you can only, take however many items you bring or whatever. And then whatever's left over at
Yeah.
the end we just donate to charity. So it's been fun because
Yeah.
it helps me a lot because there's very few things toys that I've had to buy or things like that. We just pass it along. So that, I mean, that's something that as a mom I started doing. I think too, in
Yeah.
this was really how I started. So if there's anybody that's just like, okay, literally like I can't handle a whole bunch of stuff right now, like what is the one thing? I would tell you to
Hmm.
focus on your grocery budget. To me, that felt
Mm.
like the most doable to me because as somebody who knew
Hmm.
nothing about money, I was literally like starting from scratch
Hmm.
when I like finally drew a line in the sand. I couldn't have, when I went to the grocery store, I just put stuff in the cart. I didn't know how much anything costs. I didn't know if a gallon of milk was $1 or $10. I couldn't tell you. It was like it went in the
Yeah.
cart. So just becoming more aware of what things costed. And I know it sounds silly, but I had like a little
Mhm.
notebook, and I had like a Trader Joe's page and a Target page and a Costco page. And when I would go, I would write down, okay, a gallon of milk here costs this much, eggs cost this much. So I started just like kind of becoming more aware
Mhm.
of how much things cost at different stores. And so when I would shop, I would know, oh, I'm going to get milk here because it's a better deal here. And I just started becoming more aware, and I was able to significantly cut my grocery budget. But I mean, we talked in the beginning about like California. I wasn't leaving California. So like my mortgage was not changing. These other things could not change, but
Yeah.
the groceries really was something that I felt like I had control over. And then once I mastered that
Yeah.
and got that sort of down to a science, so to speak, then I felt like,
Yeah.
okay, now I have the capacity to learn what's next. But that was a really great place to start as someone who was like totally new to all of it with no idea on what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, just raising our awareness. I remember when my husband and I very first started dating, and then when we were really actually blending finances, because we just blend it all. Once we blended it all, I started realizing like, oh my gosh, like he does not think about what he's spending. Like he goes
Mhm.
into a store and what he wants, he gets. He goes into a restaurant and what he wants, he orders. Like he literally never thinks about that fact. And I think it was very hard for him to go like, it's not about can you buy it? It's like, should you buy it? Right. And I had
Exactly.
this guy, he actually passed away 2 years ago. And he would come here for Arizona. He owned hundreds of restaurants. And I was with him one time, and he was like, "Hey, come look at this thing." We were like looking at this coffee table, and it was like a $10,000 coffee table. And he's like, and I was like, "So you're not going to get it?" And he's like, "Let me teach you something right now." And he was like my dad's age, and he goes, "Just because you can, just doesn't mean you should." And I was like, "Yeah, but like you like really could. Like, what do you care? Like you own multiple $2 million vacation homes here." And this was like before COVID. So, I mean, or like whatever, it was before the housing
Yeah.
exploded and quadrupled here. So, a $2 million house in Scottsdale, like two of them, one he would come stay in randomly, and the other one he rented out. And because he wanted to be able to golf on that golf course, so he had to buy a house there to be able to golf on the golf course. So, he just bought the house and rented the house out so he could buy a pass to the golf course. I'm like, what planet are you living on? Not the same one. Has a private jet. You know what I mean? We're talking that
Yeah.
level. And he's like, yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Like, I like it, but like, I don't like, whatever. He's like, I think I could find better, or I think I could find a better price. And I was like, what? And so I think that was so big for me to
Yeah.
see someone who had like stupid money,
Mm-hmm.
go, there's like, I think I could get this table for a not $10,000. I think I can
Mm-hmm.
get it better. Like I like it, but like, and just because you can doesn't mean you should. And yeah, my husband, like, he did not grow up like that. And that was hard. I think it's really hard in relationship to bring someone into financial awareness.
That's so
But
good.
starting
I'm
with the
gonna write
grocery
that
store was
down. I'm gonna tell my kids that
what?
just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Just
I
because you
love that.
can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
I mean, and literally, I'm like, this is coming from a guy who owns hundreds of restaurants, multiple $1 million homes, a
Mm-hmm.
jet, like said that. I'm like, okay.
Okay,
Like it
I'll
was so
listen to
weird. I
that.
maybe
Yeah.
knew him. Yeah, I knew him for like a year and a half before he suddenly passed away, and it just changed so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like that little day changed so much for me
Yeah.
with that. So, yeah, he was a frugal dude. I mean, he he did have the jet that he would use when needed, but he also most of the time he just flew Southwest. Like not even American first class, Southwest. And he told me he flew Southwest most of the time because their points program was the best, and he never had to pay for a flight. And I'm like, huh? Like what? But he came from very humble beginnings,
Yeah.
and his first job was working at a KFC, and then
Oh
just
my
went from there. Next
gosh.
thing you know, he owned hundreds
I love
of
stories like
restaurants, and it
that.
was, yeah, he was such a cool dude. So yeah, I'll remember that forever. But yeah, so okay, so I love that. Okay, so how do you serve women? Like, where can they find you? How do you help them? Because I think I it's I've learned also through my network marketing career, I'm really great at strategy. I'm really great at numbers. And I think a lot of people are really bad at budgeting because they
Mm,
don't even know where to start. I'm like, women don't even know where to start to set a goal on how to sell $5,000. They definitely don't know where to start on like how to even consider a budget. Like, what
yeah.
should my grocery budget be? Like, where do they start? And I think that you help women do this. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the way
Yeah.
that I describe like how I
Hmm.
help women is I give this analogy of like an airplane ride that you're taking, and we all
Hmm.
have like that dream destination that we're trying to get to, right? And there are people that
Yeah.
are at different places on that journey. And some of those people are already like up into the air. They're like on their way. They may even be like descending into that dream
Hmm.
destination. I, on the other hand, help people who are at like they haven't even
Yeah.
taken off. Okay. Like imagine you're sitting in the airplane ready to
Hmm.
go, and the pilot's like, guys, we can't go anywhere. There's like baggage all over the runway. We got to get this cleaned up and then we can take off, right? Like
Hmm.
that's who I help,
Yeah.
is those people who are at those beginning stages where they're like, I don't even know
Hmm.
left from right, up and down. I am looking at credit card
Yeah.
debt, or maybe you don't necessarily have debt, but you're like, I have no savings. If God forbid, the car dies
Hmm.
tomorrow, I'm in a bad spot, right? Like I help people that are kind of in that position.
Yeah.
And recently, I've really kind of leaned into more, and everyone, no matter what age you're at, is fine. But I'm helping a little bit more of like a niche of moms who are in their 40s or a little bit more, who feel like I
Hmm.
should have figured this out in my 20s and 30s, and
Yeah.
I thought that I would have, but here I am staring at 40, and I'm like, how do I not have this figured out by now? Like I thought that I would be much farther along. I do well at work, or I do well with as a mom, but like I literally feel like a mess in this area
Hmm.
of my life. And sometimes they've kind of resigned to, it's got to be too late for me at this point. And so I really like working with that particular group of people because I truly believe it's not too late to turn it around. It does take like intention and doing like the right things at the right intensity, since you don't have as much time on your side as a 20-year-old would. But like that's really kind of where I've settled into recently. I have a podcast, the Money Mindful Moms podcast, and then Instagram, and recently TikTok has been more, I don't know, I can never figure out, like, one day one platform is hot and the
Yeah.
next day the next is whatever, it is what it is. But those are the platforms, and I created this club probably like 4 or 5 months ago now that we've had it, called the Money Mindful Moms Club. And
Hmm.
that's really where like people who want to actually not just kind of consume like the TikTok that I made or the podcast episode, but like want to actually actively work on it. That's where
Hmm.
people will settle
It is a good
into.
tip.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm not a mom, and I love your tips
Oh, thank you.
on all
Thank
the
you.
platforms. Yes. Like, great
Yeah.
tips no matter what. Yes.
Yeah, so the club has kind of been a fun, I used to do like a bigger group coaching, and I just kind of saw this like next wave of like how to meet people where they're
Hmm.
at, and the club seemed like more of a
Hmm.
better fit, like a format. And so each month we just have a different topic. We did a month on just groceries, and we all worked on our grocery budgets. This month we're doing like a summer savings challenge, where we're just, instead of kind of making this a throwaway month where we're all just like, whatever, it's summer, let's just spend whatever we want. We're like, actually, no, we're going to save. And here's how we're going to do it. So each month there's just a different theme to the club. So that's been really fun. It helps me like, one of my goals is like, I don't want to just be like, oh, here's a cool app that you can get rebates on, or here's like how I saved 10 cents on this, whatever. Like, I want to have
Yeah.
a space where people can make actual change that's going to make a difference in their lives. And I feel like the club is the way that I can do that. So that's been fun to actually see people, like reporting the results, and the grocery budget that was slashed, or the whatever that happened. So that's been fun.
Yeah. And it's a community, right? I think
Mhm.
that the biggest thing when it comes to being a woman and talking about finances, you feel really overwhelmed and really alone.
Mhm. Yeah. And I,
It's been
I always joke
crazy.
that like
It's
I'm kind
amazing.
of an oversharer in some ways. And so in some ways it's been helpful because money is such a taboo topic. People don't want to talk about it. And I'm like, I'll talk about it. I don't care.
It
Like
is.
literally don't
It
care. And I you know what? I think and I think this applies to anyone, no matter where you're at. But I almost didn't
Yeah.
want to create this because I thought like I'm still in progress myself. Like I'm not on
Mhm.
the other side of the mountain saying, "Look at all this debt that I paid off. Here's how you can do it too." I'm like, "Hey, me too. I'm doing this too. I still have debt that I'm working
Yep.
on paying off. You should come do this with me." And at first I thought that was
Mhm.
like going to deter people. Like they're not going to want to listen to what I have
No.
to say because I haven't quote unquote figured it all out yet. But I have learned that the right people, like they do like that. They do want to be a part
Yeah.
of something alongside of somebody else. And I think because
Mhm.
I'm in it with them, I relate to what they're experiencing because I'm doing it with them.
Yeah. Well, I think it removes there's so much self-judgment that comes with budgeting and money and debt. And so I think there is that sense of extra relatability. Not that you even were there, but that you are on that journey as well. But that you're further than most.
Yeah.
And and that people want to join that journey of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Are there any other tips or any things at all that you want to add? Like the best place to find you is probably to go to do like website or Instagram.
I
Where
mean,
should they go?
Instagram, I try to post little things on my stories and
Hmm.
stuff. If you're more like a
Hmm.
long
Yep.
form, what do you call it? Long form content person, the podcast would probably be the
Uh-huh.
best thing because I can dive a little bit
Yep.
deeper into a topic there.
Hmm.
So if you're, I mean, obviously they're all podcast girls. So if you're a podcast girl, definitely check
Yeah.
out the podcast. And we've got, I think,
Hmm.
like 150 episodes or something over there. So there's a ton that you can go listen to based on like wherever you're
Oh
at.
my gosh. Yeah. My gosh, like you've got a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So y'all go to the podcast, go to her Instagram, go to her TikTok, follow for all the tips. And then one more cool thing about the Money Mindful Moms Club. Is this true? Did I hear you say this, that it was like a pay what you can,
Yes. That was really important to
right? Like it's
me.
not like a set membership.
No, there's
Yeah.
not a
I was
monthly
like, what?
fee to be a part of the club. I have like a link
Yeah.
that's pinned to the top that will have like the schedule of what we're doing this month and then like a payment link that it's like, hey, click here if you're participating and just pay whatever you feel like it's
Yeah.
worth to you. I just was like, you know what? Especially knowing
Yeah.
my demographic and everything, I was like, I don't want to be the payment police. I
Mhm.
just trust that, if this is helping you save
Yeah.
hundreds of dollars, that you will pay it forward in that way. So
Yeah.
that's been nice too to
That's
just
beautiful.
do something a little different than I'm used to. So, yeah,
Well, and I think it's beautiful because your demographic is women where they're like, I'm just trying to buy a gallon of milk for my kids.
exactly.
Like, I don't even know how to do this. And it's like,
Yeah,
well, they can give $5 this month, they can give $5, and maybe
exactly.
next month they can give 50, and someday they give 500 just to pay it back. So
Right.
thank you so much for coming on here. We're about all things excellence and women and shining a light on women who are doing so much good for other women in the world and hearing the stories of how you actually got here and what's going on the journey. So thanks for I love a good, like I love a good when people get a good vulnerability hangover, they're like, whoa, she like really just talked about it. The things that people don't talk about, right?
Yeah.
Just getting really real with money. So thank you for doing that. All things excellence fam, no matter whatever, if whether you're a single woman or a mom or a wife, whatever, head over to all of her stuff, binge the content. I promise you guys, I love it. Like I love the tiny random little tips. And sometimes it's just the weird permission things. Like we make I don't even know how to say we make a fraction of our money. June and July every year. I hate the months of June and July. I know I got to change my whole energy about that, but we were just talking about that. When you're in education, educators live by stipends, right? They do not live by their salary,
Mhm.
especially when you're Kobe's job. And so he makes like less than half
Oh my gosh.
in June and July. Yeah, it's so bad. He makes less than half in June and July of what he does in like the core part of the year. May, June, and July. May and June, it's a little bit longer. May, June, and July he makes less than half of what he normally makes. And then my businesses, my average clients on vacation.
Mhm.
They are, they're just like everybody's on vacation.
Yeah.
My customers are on vacation, my team's on vacation, and my coaching clients are on vacation. And
Yeah.
so I just like have been really watching your stuff this last probably year because I was like, gosh, I don't want to get to May, June, and July and feel stressed or feel guilty or whatever.
Panicked. Yeah.
And yeah, and I feel like you've just given me so much permission. Like it's fine, but like figuring out how it works within it. So thank you. And see, guys, helping me help you help anybody. So thank you
Thank you
so
for
much for
having me.
doing
This was a
that.
fun
Again,
conversation.
yeah, it's so good. All right, All Things Excellence fam, run to her stuff. The links are in the profile. Go give her a follow. And we will see you on Friday. We are finishing up with our very last episode on our Enneagram series. We are finishing up this week with Enneagram 9s, closing it out, getting to wrap up season 1 of this podcast. So thank you for all you do to support the podcast and listening. And we will see you Friday. Thanks for listening to All Things Excellence. If something landed with you today, I'd love for you to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a quick review. It helps more women find these transformational conversations. And if you're ready for support with your next step, or needing someone to stand in the gap with you to figure out what that even is, I'd love to create that space for you. And my intro clarity call is a great place to start, because life is too quick and too full to have to figure it out alone. Until next time, All Things Excellence fam, thank you for listening.